Are we ready? We started? All right, I'll go ahead and welcome everybody tonight to our June 15 special call council meeting. We have a full complement of city council people here tonight, and so everybody is present and accounted for. If you bow with me, we'll have a word of prayer and then we'll move along. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day and the many blessings of life you've given us, Lord. Thank you for giving us a beautiful day this week. Thank you for keeping us safe from the storms that were mentioned the last couple of days, Lord. We're thankful to live in this community. We're thankful for our friends who serve with us and about us. We pray that you'll keep them safe and bless their families. Go with us and forgive us our many sins. Amen. Amen. All right. We have for the call tonight, hang on a second, I better get my glasses on. We have to consider action first reading on the appropriation ordinance and then on the tax rate ordinance. So what's the pleasure of the council? Let me say before we go any further, I sent you out some notes on it, tried to be as specific as I could as to what I did, why I did it, what I was thinking. I will say that this is the largest budget that we have had. I usually get asked this, so I went ahead and added it up today. This budget is $1,943,623. We're just a few $1,000s short of being $2 million. Hopefully the funds will come in during the year to put us over the top. But it hasn't been too many years ago that we reached our first $1 million budget. So things are changing. That is $139,000 higher than last year's budget, up 9.3%. So we have appropriation ordinance there, the budget. I'll try to answer any questions I have if you want to ask them. If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Mike, I would like to say thank you for your responses this week.
Sure.
There were a lot of questions, and I do appreciate the responses that were given to us in advance.
Sure. I think there was one you sent me I didn't get back to, and I apologize, but
Yeah,
I had to do my work sometime.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what that one was.
The last one you sent.
Yeah, I don't.
I kept thinking I'd get to it, Steve, and I just didn't. It's always tough. Doing a budget's always tough. This is my 40th. Got 34 years with the county, but I don't have to do that one. So they don't get any easier, I promise you that. But anyway.
On our budget that we have right now, with the 1.9 million, we can do the 20% for the water out of that.
And do the what for the water?
The 20% that we have to pay, the grant's gonna cover.
Not out of this money, what we have in the reserves.
Okay, so that's not anywhere
It's not, and
put in there under a line item.
now might be a good time to talk about that, if you're all right with that. The budget is made up out of recurring revenues and recurring expenses. What I mean by recurring is things that go on either monthly or yearly or whatever. The sewer project that we will do, the road project that we will do, and hopefully the turntable project that we will do will all be capital project stuff. In my opinion, to do every street in this county to pave it, we won't be able to do. We'll have the $1 million from the federal government. We'll have some of our reserves from the general fund to put toward it. I'm not for draining our reserves, and we'll have to borrow some money probably to finish it to do everybody, or make some tough decisions as to who gets paved and who doesn't. I really don't want to do that. But if we have to borrow the money, then we'll have to set up monthly, yearly payments like the police cars.
So how did we come about the reserve? How much money's in the reserve, and how do we grow the reserve? Like, we've never, since I've been on it, not talked about the reserve.
Okay, good question. Let me see if I can find what I need to answer it. How we grow the reserves this year could be the interest, because interest is up. But I did include the interest in the recurring revenues.
Right.
In the May trial balance report, we have reserves in the general fund of about $500,000. In the water and sewer fund, we have reserves of about closer to $750,000, 750,000.
So when we're doing these projects and we have to pay, or we're looking at, okay, we need to match that, we can pull that out of reserve?
We can,
Okay. And we don't have to touch anything to do with this?
nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Now, I left one out a while ago, and that's the recent $929,000 grant we got from the state for water. That will fix our water tanks and,
Right.
and do some stuff there. We have to match that with 25%, so that's about $230,000 to come out of our reserves. Once you get those grants, you set up a capital funds budget then, and you show how much money you're getting and what you're spending out of that. The hope is when you get done that you'll have a little money you said to grow your reserves. Probably won't, but we've been growing them several years in anticipation of hopefully someday getting to use these things for this. Now, once we have to borrow some money, say on the streets and probably on the sewer, then that yearly payment will be set up in your budget the next year because it becomes a recurring expense. And I feel safe in saying, unless one of y'all wins the lottery and wants to donate the money, we will probably have to raise taxes and water and sewer rates probably next year, if not next year, in 2 years, depending on the timing of when we have to borrow the money. So those things are coming. And that may be the time to do some other things as well when you hit people with a tax increase and a water and sewer rate increase. I've always heard old timers, of which I'm probably one now, but at one time there was old timers that I listened to who would say, if you do a tax increase, you better get everything you need because you'll take the same cussing over a quarter, over a nickel
Right.
as you will a quarter.
And we better show that we're doing something before we start, I feel like, before we just increase.
Yeah.
Like they need to see, oh, well, they are fixing the roads. I understand now why they have to have money. Instead of just, we need money and we're still not fixing anything.
Well, and I always come back to the county. The county, many times when they have to have a tax increase, it's usually to build a school or schools, and there's more of those coming. But people can see that.
Right.
And the people up here used to hate it because we borrowed money all the time to build schools in the west end of the county. Once we got this high school built here, people's opinions began to change because they saw some of that money coming here. So there's more major expenses coming, but they're good expenses. People will be able to see the streets paved. They won't necessarily be able to see the sewer lines improved, but if they go to the bathroom and it flushes out, they'll know we did it. And if we get that turntable up and running. Also, the water tank, that's a major deal. I didn't realize that's a major deal. Getting that tank repaired for many years.
You know, that was one of my questions, because last year we didn't paint it when it was recommended that we paint it. And I didn't see anything in the budget, and that's when you told me, the next day you announced the grant. I think you told me the day before you announced it to everybody that you were working on it.
Yeah. You'll remember we got the director's order about 2 years ago, and I appealed it so that we could, well, we had one of those discussions Monday, and we're already headed toward a compromise on that that'll save us a lot of money. But one of the things was we had to fix the tank, and when we got that money, it was the day before I had this discussion with their lawyer, and I told him, I said, we got the money to do it now. He seemed happy. So he's already offered to cut what we were going to get hit to in half, and we haven't started really serious negotiating. I think I can do better than that, but if I can't, we won something, so.
I was just curious, now you're talking about borrowing money, you said that we have to pay 25% on the water project because of the grant, the master grant.
Yeah, the water project.
If we got $750,000 in the water reserve fund, 25% is 200,000+. Why wouldn't we just pay that up front?
Because we're probably gonna need it for the sewer project where we're getting, our engineer keeps talking about, we're going through the state revolving loan fund. And they have some provisions for principal forgiveness. So what I'm hopeful, and this is probably being a bit too optimistic, Larry, but I'm hopeful that we'll get the money we need and that they'll forgive quite a bit of the principal, and then we'll have enough in reserve maybe to pay that off. That'd be good. But I don't want to wipe out our reserves totally. That's just my thinking.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding would be this $920,000, it's a grant. It's
It
not a
is
loan.
a matching grant.
So we have to match 25%, so basically we can pull 230 out of our reserve
Yeah.
to get a little over $1 million that we're not borrowing.
No, that 230 comes out of the 920.
Comes out of the 920, okay.
We're gonna get about 700.
Right, okay, so I misunderstood the match and how it tied into the total. But basically, we're putting up 230 to get a total of 920, that's a grant, not a loan.
That's right. And that one won't have a repayment.
Yeah, there's no impact on the repayment. So,
The three that we could have a repayment on, the two I'm sure of, is the streets and the sewer project. Turntable still to be decided, we're supposed to hear about that in August, so.
So the sewer project is directly placed on sewer lines under the streets?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
But that part of the project has to happen
Yeah.
first,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a mess.
Now, one thing I can promise you, the people that will be sitting in these seats in the next few years are gonna have to face the plant as well, because they're coming after us as soon as we get this other stuff done to fix the plant. And my hope is, and we talked about this several years ago when we met with them, when we do these repairs to the lines and we can cut down on some of this I from excess rainfall and stuff, let's don't tinker with a plant until we see how much benefit we get by stopping some of this. It may not be necessary. I don't,
Those are leaks and that's.
Because, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna buy that, but I'll keep preaching that. But I doubt they'll buy that.
How much reserve do we need to keep in water and sewage?
Well, your total water and sewer budget, Hal, is about $660,000. Steve and I were in the planning commission Tuesday night. That's gonna go up some in the next few months, because we're gonna have some more people looking in. But in my opinion, if you keep $200,000 in reserve, if everything went haywire, you can run your water and sewer fund for about 4 months.
Yeah. I figured it was something somewhere around 200.
Yeah, my thought would be keep 200,000 in general and 200,000 in water and sewer. That gives you, one of the fears I've had, and I don't know if y'all think about this stuff, you probably do, but every now and then we turn on the news and somebody's had a tornado in their town and it's wiped out city buildings or whatever. If that ever happens here, we got, there's federal disaster money, but it's slow. And we need to be in a position where we can start rebuilding and then go after the federal disaster money. So I'd like to keep something like that. It's just my thinking. Ultimately, it's the $7 decision as to how much we keep. So. Good questions, good discussion.
one comment along those lines, like the item we heard Tuesday night, the development time frame, you're looking at a year before we would see any additional,
You're right.
a minimum of a year,
You're
probably
right.
more like 18 months to 2 years
Probably.
before those projects would get to the point where they're contributing to our tax basis.
Probably, but you've got some more.
But you've got others that are already along the way, yes.
The other thing you get from them is water and sewer taps. Now,
Yeah.
that's a one-time thing, but that can help. You got 30 units and you get $600, $700 for taps.
Yeah.
It's $20,000 right there.
Yeah.
So, and people out in Lebanon and Mount Juliet laugh at these figures, but they're major figures for us. And, so, but you're right, the one we approved the other night, it's still got to come here.
Still got to come here, yeah, it's
32.
32 units, but yeah, he's a year and a half from being anywhere near.
And I talked to Lee about that a little bit, Steve. I believe we've got a water line on the other side of that hill that serves the industrial park. And I told him, I said, Lee, you may be better off to bring that water line over the hill and serve all of your property instead of Wilson County Water doing the front part. I'd like for him to do that, then we get that much more money.
Well, that'd be another pump involved,
It would, but it might still be cheaper.
but he'd be pumping water this way and pumping sewer that way.
Yeah, as long as they don't cross. What else? All right, somebody ready to make a motion?
I got one more observation I want to bring.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I know you clearly stated in your cover letter that, the raises are $2 an hour across the board.
They are.
But and this has been one of my main concerns is with the police department. And I understand the reasoning for taking away the retention bonus because there was some abuse that was attempted to occur and we had to address that. But those numbers combined, our most tenured officers with over 5 years will actually make $4,500 less this next year than they did this past year.
Thought about that too, Steve. And my thought would be kind of what I responded maybe to Cal, I'm not sure. I'd sure like for us to look, maybe like we did this last year, October, November, December, see how things are coming in. Because if we're gonna have more money come in next year, it's gonna have to come in through the sales tax. And our sales tax numbers are strong. I could have budgeted a little bit more in there from sales tax and felt comfortable doing it, but I like to keep a little bit back. And if we can look maybe in November or say, and see if there's some money there, perhaps we can do something then, not promising that, but I would be willing to look at that. I said all along in my mind, this would be the budget to do what we could for the employees, and I'm still willing to do that all the way through June 30. I think next year hopefully we'll have to deal with some major projects, but we gotta keep feeding our people.
So you're thinking potentially a mid-year increase if the tax?
If the
sales
money's
tax.
there and we feel safe in doing it, and one reason I say safe in doing it, Steve, is if we look at it then and we say, yeah, we can do this, but we gotta remember, we gotta do it again in July, because once we give it, it's gotta stay.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I'm willing to look at that, certainly. I'd like to be able to look at these people and say, we'll give them more. And look at it, everybody we live with, saying they costing you anything else. That's my thinking. But there is stuff coming down the road that's gonna cost them. I hope I'm wrong. I hope somebody wakes up one day and said, Mayor was all wrong. I don't think I will be.
That's one of the challenges that I've got is when it comes to public safety, I don't think there's really room to negotiate on somebody being able to put on a vest and willing to take a bullet on my behalf. I mean, that's as close to a soldier as you can get. Soldiers obviously do it on foreign soil, but the premise is the same. They're risking their life. They don't know what they're going to get when they get there. And they go through comprehensive training on how to deal with it. These different situations that a lot of people don't even ever encounter, or if they do, they don't know how to deal with just in your personal life. So one of the challenges I have is asking someone to put on a bulletproof vest and come to my house and be willing to intervene in what could be a life-threatening situation for less than the McDonald's guy that hands me a quarter pounder. If my child went through all this training and intervened and saved lives every day, every other day, once a week, and they came to me and said, Dad, I got this great opportunity to get a job where I make less than a fast food worker with no retirement and no retention bonus, I'd say, maybe you should see if there's a better opportunity. So that's one of my concerns, is what happens when nobody's willing to take that risk for that price, and we lose a police department, or the majority of our police department. That's a direct hit on public safety.
Not really. The sheriff's department's responsibility is to take it over, and they will. I already talked to the sheriff about that, should have come to me.
That's my.
And that's not what I want to do at all. I don't want to be the mayor that was remembered for the fact that we lost our police department. But I'll say a couple of things to that. We got some officers that are making not great money, not even good money, but they're making decent money, and it's more than fast food workers. And the fact, I ate at McDonald's yesterday just to do a little checking on my own, and they're still looking for employees. So people will move. They'll move for more money, and they'll move for a lot of reasons. We got 3 officers moving. One of them moving, as far as I know, it's got nothing to do with money. The other, and I understand about the vest, and I understand what these guys do. But you know, we asked Bob Morgan and Eric and these guys to get down in a hole and work on a water line or a sewer line, and if that thing caves in on them, a vest ain't gonna help them. They're in just as much danger as anybody else. So that's the reason I look to say, let's give them raises across the board. I thought about it the other day, and I kind of jokingly thought that these ladies are not in danger, but I may regret saying this, but you know, they're right here on the highway. Somebody could try to get in and rob this place. So everybody we've got is facing some potential. I don't want to lose any of these guys, but you can't make somebody stay. And we found that out with the retention bonuses. 9 officers and 3 of them left. That's a third that didn't stay because of retention bonuses. So I'm not a big favorite of retention bonuses. But
And in hindsight, I'll agree with you. I think we've got the retention bonuses were structured, could have been structured better than what we did last year.
I'm not sure it would have made any difference, Steve, but it might. One thing that could have given us more money is if we had waited to borrow the money for the police cars, we'd have had $33,000 more next year.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 police cars bought, but we don't have them on the road. And so we're paying for something right now we don't have.
Now, that's one of my pet peeves, I think. I can't understand one car sitting here empty, not being used, and we got 2 on the road. And the way I understand it, isn't the chief using it? The extra police car? If there's, that's ridiculous.
Well,
To pay that much money and not being used.
I think, Hal, it was a good investment to buy the cars. Looking back on it, Steve's word about timing kind of triggered me. If we could have just waited until after July 1st to have bought them, then we wouldn't have had to make this first payment until July 1 of 2024, the next budget. So that would have been some additional money. There'll also be some additional money available next year when we finish this corrective action plan.
I just want the cars on the road.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I do too.
that's what we bought them for.
Chief and I have talked about that.
And
We talked
I want
about
the
it.
cars on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want them sitting over here not being used.
Well, also in hindsight, with the events that happened, we physically lost, even the ones that were being held together with baling wire and duct tape, we physically lost vehicles too due to the uncontrollable circumstances.
Yeah. I paid another $300 bill this week on one of them.
Yeah.
It gets rough.
Why? We got 3 new cars. Why?
They're not all here, huh? They're not all here. That's what I was saying.
We don't physically
We
have
don't
them
have
yet.
We don't have them yet. We got one.
Why?
and another one.
What is the holdup on? Don't know.
We have one. One of them is being outfitted, and I'm not sure where the third one is.
They were guaranteed, or way I understood, to be here at a certain time, and,
Yeah, looking back on it, I've done things differently, had I known.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
all of us
agree
could
with
say
you
that
there.
about everything we do, so. Okay, y'all ready to vote?
I make a motion to accept the budget.
I'll second it.
All right, is there further discussion? Let me say there's been some mighty good questions and comments, and I appreciate them. Appreciate them much. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'm gonna take that as unanimous. So the budget is approved on first reading. We'll be back on June the 29th at 6 o'clock. The other motion we need is to establish the property tax rate at .6027, or basically 60.25 cents for $100 of assessed value.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion on that? If not, you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. And the purposes of this meeting being satisfied, only other motion I need,
A motion to adjourn.
that's it. Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
Mike, can I
Go
ask-
home and enjoy your supper.
Can I ask you a quick question?
You can.
The vacancy that we have with Bob in there, are we actively advertising that? Are we actively trying to fill that third?
We've actively
position?
advertised it. I've got 2 applications that I hope we get some more applications. Let me say it that way. Okay?
So nothing you're impressed with yet?
Nothing what?
Nothing that you're impressed with yet?
I hope to get some more applications. Let me word it that way.